Dan, I know that the emotional argument right now is, look at the injuries. Parramatta, Cronulla and Canberra were both affected by it, had lessened their ability to win the game, give them an extra player. But it doesn't work out that way. Look, if you could trust people to act in the best interests of the game and the rules, go ahead. But what I'm saying is if you introduce an 18th player for circumstances where you run out of reserves, then you're essentially... You're not going to get. It's not going to fix the problem you've got, because what will happen? They already have tried that this season. It's already begun in the AFL.
It's already being rorted.
Yes, exactly.
Rorted.
First game it was rorted.
Every first round, every team went to their extra guy.
Right.
Every team. So they found an injury. Every team. So suddenly you went. Can I stop
you there? Have they got independent doctors doing the assessments? Because I reckon that would be a critical element of it. If you are going to go down that road,
you can't fake being dizzy. You can't get up and pretend to stumble.
Oh, I'd rather it was in the hands of independent doctors than the club doctors at the moment.
Look, you can fake.
And you can pretend to fail.
Yeah.
And get there and say, sorry, mate, I've got headaches. I just can't see. I've got blurry eyes. He can't send you back on.
Yeah, mate, he holds up his fingers. He says, how many fingers am I holding up? You say 12. All right, mate, come off. It's not hard to fake it. Look, let me just go through. This is why coaches, I'm speaking as a collective, they will ruin it for the game. They've already ruined it. Back in the day, if you want to go all the way back in time, rugby league was a 13-man game with no reserves. If you got an injury, you played with 12. If you got 2 injuries, you played with 11. Then after a while, they said, you know what, this isn't fair. So what we'll do is we'll bring in reserves. And you had to play in half a game in reserve grade to qualify back in the day. So what happened then was they started then, only if he's injured can the reserve go on. So they started faking the injuries. Then they realised this is ridiculous, so we'll just allow you to take it off and put them on when you like. And went from two fresh reserves, and 2 who'd played lower grades to 4 fresh reserves. Then we went to unlimited. We've gone back and forth all the way through this. But what happens is this. Over time, coaches have taken the 4 reserves who were originally put there to come in as a replacement for injury and decided we don't get 4 injuries normally in a game. So what we're going to do, initially they faked the injuries so they could get all 4 on the field. Then what they did when the game said, this is just ridiculous, everyone's faking injuries, we'll just allow you to do it whenever you like, the coaches started using those 4 replacements for tactical purposes. They're still right now using them for tactical purposes.
Yeah.
Okay?
They pull blokes off before they get tired.
They get them off before they get tired, they rest them because they see they got GPS on them, Gordon. They see their heart rate starting to spike, and they realise if they don't get this player off in the next set or two, he'll reach saturation point, and he won't be able to perform at peak level. So they get him off. So the problem what we have is if you bring in an extra guy, they're just going to fake another injury to get him on, and you're just going to go to a 5-man reserve system. And then in 4 or 5 years' time, we'll complain that that's not enough, and then we'll go to 6. And if you just keep this way, you may as well just let them run on and off and just, half-time, bring on the new team, and off we go.
Gridiron. But you know what? I love the product. The product's fantastic. Fatigue's come back into our game, and I had a look. So the Sharks, right? So they were down to... no reserves in the second half.
Yep.
So fatigue makes cowards of you. You know what you do? You don't turn up in defence. They only missed 31 tackles. 16 were in the second half, same as the first half. Right? And you look at the Raiders. They missed 11 in the first half, 19 in the second half when they were down on troops. The Broncos in round 1, when they were down on troops, only missed 34. That's the average. About 30 tackles is pretty much the average missed tackles. So they still kept on turning up.
Yeah.
And I think that Brad Arthur Morris was talking about his effort last night, and Ricky, he's never been more proud of the boys. He said it's one of the gutsiest performances. That's what you take out. Queensland, we still live on when Mal Meninga broke his cheekbone, Bob Linder broke his leg, and Alf
broke his
and
leg.
Wally got us home. That's what's got to happen in that jersey.
Yeah,
when you're down on troops, you've got to lift. I think it's better for the game. It's better for the clubs to have those type of performances. I love it.
It's going to be up to the NRL, though, to have the strength to be able to say, no, we're going to stick with what we've got. Because the NRL is very reactive at the moment, and you can mount as soon as you throw these 2 words into the argument, you won your case, right? Player welfare. Player welfare.
Player
Forget the
welfare is
fact
teaching
we
the
need
guys how
6
to
blokes
tackle.
up to get him on the field. Forget the fact that we're faking head injuries. We're teaching them how to pretend they're not concussed. In other cases, when it's time to replace, we're pretending they are concussed and they can get off and have a breather for 10 minutes while they have their HIA, and then a new guy comes on.
You know what I was told, Kenny, goes on? And this started in the NFL and has come down here. So these players apparently do tests at the start of the season. That's kind of the marker, right? Yeah. And then when they are supposedly concussed, then it's sort of married up how they perform in that test on the field or off the field is married up. They are flunking the pre-season test so that when they struggle,
I think they used to do that, Dan.
It's changed?
I think they've changed it.
Very good.
They ask them to do things like say the alphabet backwards.
Right, okay.
Things like, so just cognitive stuff that if you're thinking clearly, you can.
Blokes that can't do that now.
Yeah. Well, look, it probably takes a little bit of time to get through it.
Mate, I'd struggle to do that now.
But what they have changed the rules because that did that. There was famously the case, and I won't embarrass him, a player who got knocked out, and when they played for the Canberra Raiders back in the day, and whenever they had someone knocked out, they had to pass his test before they were allowed to come back. So in his concussed state, he did the test. He beat his mark from the start of the season when he was fresh.
Okay. Can I see you on this then? Because this is the way I can see it going down this way. 18th man, okay, that's too open to rorting. But, hoops, what if the player, like Nathan Cleary last week, is KO'd due to an illegal act? Could you see the NRL budging and saying, okay, you know what?
No.
I can see him budging, Kenny. I'll tell you why. Because
budging, but they
you look
shouldn't.
at the way that the game has evolved over the course of the last 2 seasons, last year and this year. All the changes we've brought in, the way that at times there's been criticism that some of it has been policy on the run. I love the product at the moment. I think it's fantastic. As Gordon pointed out, the way that fatigue is now back into the game, the way that it's giving the superstars the platform to shine is brilliant. But I will say this, if the coaches, and it's already happening behind the scenes, big name coaches are going to push that they want an 18th man, especially if a player is taken out, as Dan just pointed out, by an act of foul play.
It will all depend on the player taken out. If it's a middle forward at the 65th minute mark taken out, of course he's going to be replaced. It's your halfback. You don't want him replaced. Yeah. You want to keep him on. So it's a argument that sounds terrific.
No, but that's not. If Cleary, let's use Nathan Cleary last weekend against the Bulldogs as the example. Well, Tony Zalesniak takes him out with a high shot, gets binned for the shot, right? And then as a result, Nathan's forced off because he's failed his HIA.
That's a no-brainer. But what if it's say it's a hip drop tackle? Which is an illegal act.
We'll use the Munster one from Thursday night.
Okay, let's just say it's a hip drop tackle and it's on your halfback. You're not going to want him going off. But if it's on your middle forward,
you'll happily take the interchange.
You'll happily say, you know what, he's not really injured, but mate, get up and walk with a limp, and off he goes.
And I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Good. Some of those tackles and tackle techniques and the positions that they got themselves in were absolutely poor. Mitchell Moses goes and dives at his legs and wasn't even looking at the target, right? You can teach an under-10s kid to tackle better than that. That's not being... And then those 2 Canberra Raiders guys, not one bloke bends their back to use their shoulders. If you tackle with your chest, the only things that can hit is your head.
Yeah, but Gordy, I watched that too. I thought the Raiders were okay from the point of view that both had their head the correct position and they hit with the correct shoulder, whereas Mitchell Moses didn't. Mitchell Moses had head in poor position, and you see that a lot these days.
And he's looking at the grass.
You see a lot of guys these days who just favour one shoulder. The days of when you got brought up and you got taught to tackle safely with your head going in behind or to the side of the ball runner, depending on what side you were, and you adjusted shoulder depending on where you needed to position your head. Whereas now you see guys who just favour a right shoulder, so they'll put their head in front of people and hit with the right shoulder. So if they're coming in, if they're moving from their right to their left, where they should be then hitting with the left shoulder, so their head goes down the side of the player, they actually put their head across the front of the player to hit with the right shoulder because they get more force through the tackle and they're more chance of completing the tackle if it goes right. But, gee, a lot of them knocking themselves out this way.
I get all that. If Ryan James bends his back and hits him in the ribs the old-fashioned Les Davison style or Tony Carroll, he doesn't clash heads. One low, one
yeah,
high.
yeah. One low,
If
one
Mitchell
high. Gordon,
Moses,
but that's. But I
you know,
can
has-
argue that because one
has a
low,
better
one high, they
target.
both went high. If they both gone low, you get the same result. They just both went in the same heights. They hit heads. If one was
That's
high,
right.
one was low, either side, it's as good as gold.
But like that's my point. Everybody's carrying on about the amount of injuries. Some can be avoided. And you got Lindsay
Some are
Collins.
just accidents,
It was
too.
friendly fire. That's right. It was friendly fire from Big Jared. Well, it was not friendly when Jared comes into it. But, yeah, I mean, it was, you know.
He was
it
in a
his own
mood on
teammate.
Friday night.
Ooh, wasn't he?
Question before the break. He was in a mood. He was cranky. Question before the break. So the 18th man you've discussed, it's a no for all of you. What about the narrative that will start, the game is too quick now? The game is so quick, the players, like Cameron King put out a tweet, and that poor bugger, he's riddled with injury, and his career was ruined. But he put out a tweet, well, you got what you wished for, you wanted fast footy, and this is what
No,
happens.
well, that's not what happens. There's no evidence to suggest this is what's going to happen. The players, it's been unusual, certainly, but I'm still sitting here waiting for somebody to actually say, well, mate, it's because of the speed of the game. Why does the game being faster? I know fatigue's brought into it, but the game's always had fatigue. And then we got fatigue out. These guys are adjusting at the moment.
Yeah.
They will adjust.
Dan,
And when they
it's
do
not
adjust-
a treadmill. It's not a treadmill, and we've wound it up to weigh it in, and they got to keep up. When they're running out of petrol, they slow down. They're actually going at the speed what they can as humans,
Okay.
right? So what happens is if they stay on there longer, they just start to slow down and not make up the play. And that was my argument with the Sharks. They kept on turning up.
I'd make this point further to that, Gordon, as well. We saw 160 games of regulation football last season, and it's up past the 20 mark already this year. This is the first weekend that we've seen this sort of carnage. So I think it's too knee-jerk to just say, "Oh, it's because of the speed of the game. It's because of the new rules. This is what's, this is what we're going to get."
I wonder if it's these pitches because remember it's been bucketing down and it's soft underfoot. But anyway, we can't answer that. But mate, to me,
But things like
There's all those factors.
I
There
know,
are all
I know.
those
And
factors.
to me, footy hasn't been this entertaining since the mid-90s.
Brilliant.
So good.
All
I'm
right.
loving it.